Welcome, everybody. It's Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and I'm going live with the fourth episode of the Empowering Empath series. Um, Welcome. I'm going to wait a few minutes just to see who joins us. We've got, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, for me to know that you're online, I need you to post a comment. But welcome. I think that's Jay. Hey, Jay. I see you've joined. Welcome. Gonna wait just a minute or so just to let folks kind of catch in that I'm now live. I'm excited to be here tonight and share some cool information about creating conscious rituals that put us in rhythm with our soul. It's been a big thing in my life these last probably 10 years. So we're going to dive in here in a minute. Let's see, we got somebody online on Facebook or YouTube. I can't tell. I have this new equipment set up in here, and it got me a chat window for Facebook and YouTube, and then my Instagram on my phone. So it's kind of cool. Well, I'm just going to kind of roll in to the talk tonight. So last week, I talked about the 5 steps to develop a deeper relationship with yourself. And so today we're going to kind of take some of the nuggets from that and expand. Every week I'm kind of expanding and going into different realms. So those 5 steps were the Savor Process, which has been something that has unfolded in my life, and I kind of put the pieces together. And you can go back and watch episode 3 to get a little bit more info on that. But one of the things to develop that ability to more deeply savor all of your experiences in life, the good, the bad, the tough, whatever it is to one that I've really learned in my life is to create rhythms that support you in your process. I know for me, like, it's been incredibly important and impactful in my experience, going through a lot of challenging as a highly sensitive person and empath. When you're sensitive, you've got to kind of kick it up a notch, so to speak, with yourself at times. I call it's what it boils down to is self-compassion. Everyone's heard that analogy of, when you get on the airplane and the masks come down to put the mask on yourself first. Well, that's the essence of the self-compassion, the self-care that you'll see me talking a lot about on this Empowering Empath series, and in all of the work that I do. It is self-care and creating these conscious rituals and daily practices that support that, putting the gas mask on ourselves so we can take care of ourselves when the heat gets turned up in our life. Everyone, we all got it, and I'm going to share some of the heat that's been in my life these last couple months. Some of it's really exciting stuff, and some of it's more challenging, and it's can be emotional. So I have learned some processes for me, and I'm going to share those. But let's talk about what is a conscious ritual anyway, and particularly, what does it mean to be in rhythm with your soul? So to me, a ritual is just like a sacred practice that you do in your life, with the intention of, supporting you deeply. And there's so many types of things. This can go across a whole spectrum. Some people, like to have a ritual, and then it gets into creating an altar with things they like, and it feels like a sacred space. Hey, Jennifer, welcome to Instagram. And for some other folks like myself, creating a ritual or practice has meant showing up for myself first thing in the morning and taking time to meditate and do practices that support me going inside. Hey, thanks for posting, Jennifer. So, in today's talk, I'm gonna explore what kind of this looks like, because it's gonna be so different for everybody. And creating a rhythm. I know everybody loves music or some type of music. When you get up first thing in the morning, could you imagine, like, what is your mind? What are you usually like? Do you feel kind of heavy, weighted down? Is your mind kind of racy? Are you sluggish? Like, what are those things that tend to happen for you on a daily basis? What are your states that come up? I think of it as music, like some of us have a hard rock mind and it's constantly always going. Some of us have, a more steady beat mind. But what is our soul rhythm? In reference to creating a conscious practice or ritual, it's important to kind of understand what your rhythms are like. Have a sense of that, because we want to create a rhythm that can be a space or a structure or set tone for you to go inward, to connect with your soul, the subtle essence of who you are. And if you're like me, when you have a lot on your plate, it becomes even more important to do that, because if we don't, guess what happens? We get kind of sucked into all the, it could be drama, it could be whatever that's going on out into the world, and our minds like to follow. The mind follows. So if you haven't trained your mind or don't have a rhythm or a ritual in your life that supports training your mind to connect with your soul or go inward when the challenges kick in, oh, wait a minute, instead of getting caught in the drama, we all do it. It's just part of being human. But when you can have a ritual or practice that can then train you to go, oh, wait a minute, my mind's going and following that. I'd rather stay connected to my soul, stay connected to my peace. So what I'm referencing really in this talk today is, how do you do that? What does it look like? For some folks, I know with myself, it's taken a lot of practice and exploration. Yoga has been the probably most powerful tool set for me in creating conscious rituals and practice, and learning what I need and what my mind, the states that it goes to by default from old patterns and trauma, versus creating new ones. There's kind of 4 areas of creating a ritual or practices in your life. Oh, awesome, Jennifer. I hear you. Me too. This is something that, I don't think it ever goes away, being human. I think we can train and hone ourselves better and better and just create new rituals and practices as we need them and hone them. But I think especially as sensitives and empaths, like, we super need it so that we can stay with our highly sensitized and aware beings, that we don't get overtaken and oversensitization, and we can stay connected. So there's kind of 4 areas of a ritual or a practice that I'm going to talk about. One is, learning, knowledge, tools, awareness. It's oftentimes referred as jhana yoga, where you study, contemplative study. Maybe it's reading a book, having a regular practice of, just learning and more intellectual growth. Then the other piece, which has been a huge one for me the last couple of years, is, in yoga we call it kind of kriya, or discipline, or a physical rhythm, mental rhythms. So creating a physical mind, body, spirit practice that sets the tone for the day. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. In these talks, I kind of want to just throw some ideas out there for you so you can kind of maybe start thinking for yourself about what may be something good now or a way to grow. And feel free to post questions or thoughts. I'd love to share my spin on things if it's helpful. So then the third one is karma yoga, or the yoga of action. So it's actually putting actions out daily that support positive return. So for some people, oftentimes in karma yoga, it's giving yoga classes, or maybe going out into the world and just doing good or sharing something that you have to share, knowing that when you put it out, it's just from your heart, and that's a way, to get love back. It's just boom, boom, karma, the yoga of action. Another one is, we call it bhakti yoga, or the yoga of devotion. What are we devoting ourselves to? There's a whole technology in yoga of using your voice to devote yourself to the sound current, which in the sound takes you to the source within yourself. But there's a lot of ways to devote yourself, but just having an awareness of, where is my devotion? Am I putting all my energy to how my dating life is? Or am I putting all my energy to, working out? Or am I putting all my energy into just work and staying busy? Or am I putting some of that, devoting myself toward your own inner connection, developing your own inner skill set to listen and be present with what's going on in you, no matter what's going on in the world. And it takes some practice. So I'm going to share a little bit, because over the last year, I sold my house and I moved in with my mother, who dementia is getting pretty intense over here. And it was one of those things that I just knew that I had to do, and it's been a win-win, because it's also let me explore diving into my new business ventures with a little more ease than where I was the whole situation before. And so on top of, a regular care schedule with her, creating new businesses, and I'm also in a program that is so powerful. I'm going to share a lot of this stuff in the coming episodes, but it's a program of deep emotional healing and liberation, learning and understanding why your emotions are there in all situations. So like this week we hit grief, and it was like on top of all these things going on. So what I've learned, for me to be able to handle all of these processes going on, I have to, every single morning, even before I get out of bed, I have to ask myself, what's going on with Michael right now? What do I need before I even get out of the bed? And really check in. That's just a simple, to me, it's a ritual that I have taught myself every day, to just check in. And as soon as I get out of bed, I go and sit in my special place where I do my yoga practice or meditation. My practice changes every day, but I at least sit with myself every day for minimum 5 minutes, but it's usually 15 minutes to sometimes it's an hour and a half, depending on what I need. And I've learned that part of my conscious ritual is taking moments throughout the day to check in with myself, because sometimes I'm overextending in areas of some of my patterns. And any of y'all that have dealt with health concerns with a family member, where when your spirit wants to care for others, sometimes you can forget about yourself. So learning something, trying something that can set the tone with your soul in the morning. That's awesome, Jennifer. So like for me in the morning, I do Kundalini yoga. If y'all are ever interested, there's a lot of different type of meditations, and for me, one of conscious breath practices, getting the prana or the life force moving, can be a very quick way. I think many of us with busy schedules, we need to find, relatively fast and powerful tools that can take us inward with, some boom, instead of just sit and watch our minds and all of those things. Breath can really get you into that inward space to where you can really have a bigger picture of what's going on. So what is the soul anyway? We're talking developing a rhythm so that you can get connected more to your soul. To me, the soul is that subtle part of ourselves that if we're out in this world as highly sensitive people, you can easily just kind of bypass that subtle essence of who you are, that sensitivity, with what you need and where and how you can share and be in the world for your highest and best joy, happiness, peace, all those things. So creating that connection is just incredibly powerful. So I would love to ask you, if you've never, done that before, if it's something new, to, try a meditation, try doing a little physical posture. Exercise is another thing that you can do, but I want to share, there's a big difference between exercise can help us dissipate energy, which can make it easier to go inward for sure. But then after exercise, still taking time to sit and dialogue with yourself, connect with your breath, and be a witness to what emotions, what thoughts are going on, and how you are dialoguing, how you're interacting, how you're attached or not, unattached to these things, so that you can really get to know who you are on an inside level. And when we know ourselves from the inside level, oh my gosh, that's when life flows a lot better. So in relationship to, what's going on in my life right now, if I don't do this, I have a tendency to then get angry or frustrated because I'm overworking myself, and I'll go into old patterns of overdoing it. And anger is a protective mechanism, I found. So I know I've overdone it. And when I show up for myself first, it's so much better, so much easier to catch myself throughout the day and just make those conscious decisions. So yeah, it's really, really important. I've thought a lot about developing conscious rhythms and how music and beats and all of that. What is the beat of your soul? What is your soul rhythm? And you can kind of have a sense of who what's your subtle rhythm is. It can help you create, actual practices that you can do, that I think of a drum beat, like boom, 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 boom. Like if you have that underlying, beat, that downbeat, that upbeat, whatever it is that you need, and that beat is going through your day. When you've shown up in the morning and you've connected with that boom, boom, you've made that boom, boom, this underlying tone, this underlying rhythm that will go all day long. I was out at the lake today, and this was what reminded me of that. And I was throwing pebbles in, sometimes two at a time. And when the pebble goes in, it ripples, ripples, ripples. Well, and if you throw two pebbles in, they ripple, and the ripples, they just perfectly flow and cross over. Well, if you have this rhythm, this ripple that you've created in the morning, it's going to flow into everything. It's so cool to watch. I highly recommend it the next time you're at the lake. Throw a rock in and watch it in reference to what this, creating a conscious ritual and creating a rhythm that can keep you connected and keep that essence and vibration just moving out through your day. So some other things that I think are important in creating a conscious rhythm, like for me, a lot of times if I'm really intensely focused, I'll take a nap most days, like a power nap, 10 minutes. Like that's a conscious ritual for me. I know my body's like, whoop, my mind starts going a little, I get racy mind and I start thinking and obsessing about things, and I'll just take a nap. And it'll fix itself. I found that our bodies, doing a lot of yoga and getting a lot more accustomed to the cycles of the sun and the moon and the day, like there's a big cycle that happens sometimes, and some of us are more sensitive to it in the middle of the day. And if you allow yourself, and after you eat, sometimes just to take a little nap, it can just let your body handle what it needs to handle. And then you can, get back to it. Little things can go a long way. For some people, it's journaling. Pulling out a journal first thing in the morning and writing down what is going on in my mind, what feelings are on the surface right now, what's on my heart, what is my list of tasks that I feel that I have to accomplish. Whatever that is, getting it out, being conscious with it, and then reflecting against that. Is that really what my soul is calling me to do? Or are some of those things stuff that I feel obligated to do? It's these little things that are big things, especially for sensitives and empaths. Little things can make a huge difference, more than I'd say your average person. It's like little teeny things can go a long way. So in my day, it's dealing with anger, grief, going through a family health situation. It can be really challenging. Like today, I'm feeling much more low, working with grief and this grief process I mentioned earlier. But when I show up for myself first thing in the morning, it gives me the energy, the awareness, and the state to know and be more connected, that my body's healing, my mind's healing, but I can still be connected with my soul. It doesn't have to take me over. Like in the past, before I used to do conscious rituals, or have these practices that were supportive of me, an emotional thing would completely and totally take me over. My body, our emotions, we're going to talk about emotions in the next couple weeks, like next week and then more later, but our emotions are an instinctual animal part of ourselves. So if you don't have the inverse balance of that, the intuitiveness, the space opened up, to counterbalance, to go, wait a minute, I'm gonna check in with that before I let all of that emotion just run my whole day. But emotion can be positive too, so it can go both ways. But if you've got a lot on you and you're sensitive and you've had various levels of trauma or PTSD, A lot of times we call it the negative mind in yoga. The negative protective mind is going to go ba-bam, hello everybody, I'm here and I'm going to protect you. And the protection comes up in the forms of a lot of times the negative perspective, thus the negative mind. So how do you know when you have a soul level intuition or a mind pattern? It's really important when you're creating a conscious ritual to get to your soul that you kind of have a sense. I think everybody has this natural sense, but sometimes we ignore it. I was talking to somebody today who had a major life crisis, and they were like, how did that happen? I feel like I'm pretty in tune with things, but sometimes we all do things when the mind and the patterns from our past are running the show. So a conscious ritual and daily practice can begin to break up those patterns so that we can be more conscious and make conscious decisions. So our soul, that soul level intuition, for me, the way that I feel it, it's just, there's this neutral openness and deep peace that comes with it. However, if the intuitive thought or advice from within is coming up, it can sometimes be a little scary if it's out of the box, or if it's challenging our ego mind to do something different than what it would normally do. So just because a soul level intuition is in there does not mean that it may not bring up some fear or something that may want you to go or think twice or three or four, or your mind starts racing about whether I should do that or not. So soul level can be subtle. It can be a full body sensation, or it can just be that little small voice that shows up in your mind, and with the small voice is kind of like this neutral just wash over. Or for sometimes the soul, it's gonna yell. We're gonna get deep, powerful guidance. But there's normally what I've found, this kind of neutrality that goes with the soul. This yeah, I'm gonna do that. It feels right. It's open. It opens versus contracts. Soul level guidance, it's like opening a new door, versus mind pattern guidance. It's like contractive. And hey, Allison, thanks for the wave. So hopefully that gives you a few nuggets to think about in terms of creating a rhythm. I just thought I would mention, I do life coaching, and the way that I like to work with people is really developing a rhythm. I use yoga and meditation practices primarily to help people, but I've found how powerful this can be. It can break, when you start rhythms, you can break habits big time. Also powerful to remember that to break a habit, you really need to move through an entire moon cycle. Some people say, you can do it in as little as 21 days. 28 days is more like a full moon cycle. And some of my teachers recommend 40 days, so you kind of get a little beyond the moon cycle of keeping a habit going. And obviously, the longer you do it, the deeper you go. So how about trying a new conscious ritual so that you can find that deeper connection with your soul? We all need this at this time more than ever, with all going on in the world. If you have any questions, if you need any support, please reach out. There is a new group that I've created on Facebook, and please join it if you feel inspired. It's called Empath and Sensitive empowerment support, or something like that. Empowered empath and sensitive support. And over time, I'm going to be more present in there as we build up the community. So you can post and share, and we can learn from each other, and all those kind of things. So whether you're watching now or whether you're watching this later, please shoot any questions in the comments. I'm happy to respond, and I'll even do an entire video for any questions that are out there. I'm excited to connect and build community where those of us that are sensitive and empathic can feel that we have a place to support each other in our gifts. Being sensitive and empathic is so important to understand that the care that comes, the sensitivity, is what the world needs more than ever. And if we don't master it within ourselves, we're not letting our light shine. So conscious rituals, way to go, way to start to deepen that practice. Next week, I'm going to dive into a little bit about the emotions. We're going to start the process of learning how to more deeply dialogue and create a healing, loving, compassionate connection with your emotions, so that we learn to not beat ourselves up when we have negative emotions. We can learn to go, oh my gosh, there is a fucking sacred gift in this, and I want to learn it, and I want to learn to honor that, because we all, my teacher calls the emotions senses of the soul. So we'll leave it at that for tonight. Thanks for joining me live, Jennifer and Allison. Good to have you on Instagram. And we will see you next week. Lots of love.